come back from our recess. Okay. What do we have?
Mr. Chairman, I asked you earlier if we, you basically made a comment earlier about our agendas and minutes when we were talking about the board policy and being able to make sure that the people were informed. The last thing on today's agenda of the meeting was the Phillips 66 presentation, and so I just would like to ask again, when we're reconvening this afternoon with nothing on the agenda, that makes it difficult for people to get engaged. If you had any response or somebody got a response, we could make sure we know what's
Since
on.
you other business to take care of that you wanted to discuss, so it's just housekeeping business, I assume.
Okay,
And there's nothing nefarious here, Tim. We had a lunch date with Phillips 66 when I asked for this to be readdressed at 1 o'clock, as you will recall. That was done so that we didn't put them off.
I understand that, but again, the last thing on the agenda was the Phillips 66.
No, it wasn't. What you see here at the bottom half is called the consent agenda.
Oh, this,
What we will be discussing is actually below the Phillips 66 item
okay,
in the paperwork, and it is consent agenda, which is also housekeeping, like Mike
all
said.
right, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Consent agenda is what makes it a little difficult to know what's up next.
No, it doesn't, because
for the
you just
people.
have to read it. You just have to
Well.
read it. It's published in the newspaper, it's posted around the courthouse.
Details
it's
are
right here.
lacking, Commissioner, and that's why it's hard to understand what's really going to be discussed, because they're not really.
I think it's pretty clear.
Anyway, thank you.
The consent agenda, at the end of the specifics is housekeeping. And what I do have are some things that came up in the last couple of weeks that we need to discuss. One is, there were 121 claims that were unapproved. So I pulled out a couple just to make sure that they got approved. And I think these should be done ASAP. One is BCDC and the other is MBAC. And I thought those might languish if they weren't brought to a meeting.
Yeah, I signed claims Friday and these weren't.
I signed, if it was Friday, that was, I don't know what day it was that I did.
So, yeah, these, I took care of them on Monday. So we just need to get these signed, and then I have a couple of others too, so.
Were those in with that Friday pile Friday?
On Friday, no, I asked Michelle to pull them out so I could address them
Oh,
here.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not gonna sign it. I'll tell you folks what it is. MBAC is their 18-19 membership dues, Economic Development Partnership. It's the damnedest mess I've ever seen.
And that's why I asked them to be pulled, because I fully expected this. So
I
these
wonder
were,
why.
these were already approved in the budget. All it is the claims to actually pay the amounts. So, I'm happy to sign them, but I will only do so with public disclosure and reading from my statement of disclosure. So with that, I will move, well, let me read it first. This is the statement of disclosure. There is no conflict of interest between my volunteer work for Broadwater County and the citizens and my duty as a county commissioner. My involvement with my community is comparable to other county commissioners throughout Montana. I receive no personal monetary gain for working with Broadwater County Development Corp., BCDC, Townsend Area Chamber of Commerce, Auxiliary, Rotary, Montana Board of Crime Control, Youth Justice Council, Area 4 Agency on Aging, County Board of Printing, or any other organization that offers services to the citizens of Broadwater County. I do not own a business or such property. I do not rent or lease any property or assets to any business. The best way to be an effective county commissioner is to be involved. Montana Association of Counties, MACO, has committees that support this work. Economic Development Committee, Health and Human Services Committee, among many others. MCA 762527 and MCA 95112 support commissioners' involvement. My husband is Executive Director of Montana Business Assistance Connection, MBAC. MBAC is Broadwater County's Certified Regional Development Corporation, CRDC, and our Federal Economic Development Agency, EDA, and has been since 2004. In fact, Broadwater County has been involved with and complied with the Public Works and Economic Development Act of 1965. Broadwater County contributes an annual equivalent of 1 mil to receive services by both EDA and CRDC, as is required for that assistance. That 1 mil equates to less than 3% of MBAC's operating budget. That 1 mil is not paid to Brian Obert. MBAC derives its funding from many sources, including EDA, CRDC, interest-bearing revolving loan funds, grants, state contracts, and membership from local businesses and governments, cities and county, including Lewis and Clark and Marr counties, Augusta, East Helena, Lincoln, Townsend, and White Sulphur Springs. But the benefits to Broadwater County are far more than the 1 mil. There is no conflict of interest. So we'll admit that for the record.
But for the record,
With that,
that, what she just discloses, she does it all the time, it ain't worth the damn paper it's written on.
so with that, I will move that we sign both the MBAC and the BCDC claims as our part of the budget.
I'll second. Tim?
Wait till you're done voting, if you will allow just a question on this whole issue, that would be fine. Or I can ask it now, it's up to you, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
If I heard correctly, on the agenda, the constant agenda here, is we have 121 claims that were denied. That's what I thought I heard.
Oh,
Now,
not
maybe
even
I
close.
misheard that.
Not.
No, Tim, I don't even know where you came up with
Okay,
that.
so they were not
That's
paid.
fantasy.
So they were not
That's absolute
paid?
fantasy. No, they are in the process of being paid. Tim, I don't know where that
So you
came
got
from.
2 that you're pulling out of that, is what we heard.
Right, yes, for discussion, so we could get them
121.
paid. Correct.
Okay,
I misunderstood it too, Dave, it sounded.
that's what, I'm sorry, sounded like you had 121 that weren't paid in the normal process, and that's why I asked.
They were
Thank
just
you.
in the process.
Okay, thank you.
Cheryl?
I strongly recommend that if these two are being pulled out of that 121, they be delayed to next week and be added to the agenda itself as a separate item.
That's not required, so.
We don't normally address every claim in the agenda.
I think these two are very special.
They were passed, all of this money was passed in the budget. Money was transferred from the Wheatland turn lanes to pay for MBAC and BCDC. It was the money that we made off the Wheatland turn lanes, we made $26,000, the total of this bill is $23,000. So the interest off the Wheatland turn lanes was spent on these 2 accounts, it wasn't pulled out of Pilt or anywhere else. Yes,
One final question, is that the current dues for the county to pay is 23,000, what I just heard?
that's the total of the 2.
The total of the 2. Could you break that down for me so I know which goes to where? Please, thank you.
The MBAC is $13,397. Broadwater County Development Corporation is $10,000.
Okay, thank you, sir. One last follow-up, sir. And so the funding is coming from the turn lane?
It came from the final payment on the Wheatland turn lanes.
Okay, so,
Normally it's mills out of the general fund.
thank you.
And I think it's worth repeating that that money from the turn lanes wouldn't have been provided to Broadwater County. We wouldn't have it if it wasn't for the work of Mark Mankey at MBAC. We would have paid $150,000 that we would have not had reimbursed, and we would never have received the $27,000 in interest. So I call for the question, Mr. Chairman. Call for the vote.
Okay, a motion's been made and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed,
No.
All right.
carries.
With that, I will go ahead and sign to get these added to the process. I could have that other one.
Back to the money, we were talking about this turning lanes. The county just got sucked into that. It was just a MOU that they signed with the state, because the state wasn't about to do anything. They know what these developers are like for this turning lane. They weren't gonna get stuck on it. So the county signed an MOU, just like if you sign a note with somebody else and they don't pay it, county was stuck to pay the $114,000 for the turning lane. That, I want that on record.
All right, so the next one I have here is a Great West Engineering claim. This is for $4,093.79. This is actually a trust board claim, and this is resulting from the land acquisition project that the trust board approached us to pursue about 2 years ago. And it was to get the property reverted from federal, which Bureau of Reclamation, it's the Rod and Gun Club, the golf course, the softball fields, and the 10 acres, and to put that into county hands. Part of that requirement has been described in great detail by Mia Whitfield, who was kind of point on this project. And one of the requirements is that we update the agreements. We can no longer have lease agreements with the city. They have to be concessionaire agreements with the county. To make sure we maintained a good relationship with the city, what we did is we formed a recreation board with 2 members appointed from the county, 2 members appointed from the city, and 1 at large, who was a combination of both. And their job is to manage the different recreation clubs. So the process requires a number of public meetings, rewriting concessionaire contracts, and there's 11 points. Signage, that's a requirement, and that has a particular date to it. Much of this has begun, but then it kind of got stymied a little bit. The trust board and the recreation board had a number of joint meetings, each had a number of separate meetings, and then there were liaisons between the two. And the trust board essentially told the rec board, you guys go ahead and do the work, we'll go ahead and fund it. That was the understanding from the commission from the beginning of the land acquisition project, that this was a trust board project, but of course we had to sign everything as it is an agreement with the county. So, fast forward to today, Jerry Grabentz was the facilitator hired, and his claims have gone unpaid since last July. We have got to get these paid. So, the Recreation Board is willing to pay his bills to date, and then what they want to do, and we'll be getting a letter on this shortly, they want to transfer the land acquisition requirements yet to be fulfilled back to the trust board. 1, either for the trust board to go ahead and complete their project, or 2, until the trust board deems that they will fund the recreation board to go ahead and do the work for them. I think that's it in a nutshell. Any questions?
I'll give you a little update on that also. Sure, it's stymied. I'll tell you why I was stymied. Oberth come in here right at the last minute, one of these things just like this right now, and says the trust board wants this contract signed with Great Western, and it's about these trails and this and that down there. And when it's the trust board, I believed her, like a fool, I believed her. I second the motion. The chairman signed it off. And about a day later, I get word from the trust board, they never did approve that. They never did ask for that. And they're pretty upset about what took place on that. So that's why nothing was ever paid.
Franklin, that's totally untrue, and we have minutes.
Hell, it isn't untrue, I know, I've been told.
Okay, I'm gonna request civility from you, Franklin, but we need to go ahead and pay this. Are there any constructive questions that I can answer on the process?
Okay, where's the money coming from then?
Money comes out of the Park and Recreation Board.
And I did talk to a trust board member. He is going to bring it forward to the rest of the trust board that they reimburse the rec board. But we are pretty mortified that this hasn't been paid. And again, there's a number of meeting minutes where
Yeah,
this
there's
is
a bunch of stuff
discussed.
on that little thing I can say, I ain't gonna say it now, but I will in the near future.
Michael?
Is, this was ordered by the trust board, or the recreation board to do the study? I
No,
mean,
the trust board actually came to the commission and said, we want to do this program, the land acquisition. And then the National Park Service, who took lead for the feds,
Okay,
said, you have to do these 11 things.
okay,
So the trust board said, hey, recreation board, why don't you do those 11 things, we'll fund it, you're the worker bees. Trust board, or the rec board, said we need a facilitator. Trust board said, we support that, and we will increase their workload by doing a countywide survey. And that's where we're at today. Jerry's come down, he's worked with them, he's written the contracts.
you gotta, you gotta pay those people.
I know, we're stuck
Absolutely.
paying it, it's gotta be paid, but it's a bunch of damn bull how it come about.
I don't know the history,
Yeah.
but the process is the right one.
Yeah. So I will move that we sign,
Tim.
I'm sorry,
Just one more question, I'm sorry. Could you repeat the amount that is now on the table?
$3,138.09. Well, actually, and there's another one, it's actually, the total is $4,093.70.
409274. I'll follow up, and that's why I asked the question, because I was at the Canyon Prairie Trust Board when this was discussed here a couple of weeks ago, where the invoice was presented to see if we about getting payment, and it was the original $3,138 invoice. So, to my knowledge, I guess, the trust board didn't even know about, or the recreation board didn't bring forward this additional bill that brings the new balance up to the
This
$4,092.
new invoice was $1025.18,
The original one?
the new one,
Oh, the new one, 1020, oh, okay.
that's
So
the
that makes sense, it's just been
$955.70.
submitted here very recently,
Yeah.
since that meeting. Okay, thank you. I was wondering how that got changed.
so I will move that we sign the claim for Great West Engineering to be paid by the Recreation Board.
Is there a second? I'll second. Motion been made and seconded to pay the Great West Engineering claim for the Commission Recreation Board out of the Broadwater County Parks and Recreation Board. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same? Motion
The-
carries.
The other thing with that is, and Mike, this is for you to know too, the concessionaire agreements have been done. Jerry wrote those. They were sent to the county attorney's office in August, and we're just waiting for him to give a legal review so we can send it on to those clubs, let them review it, make their comments, and then start that process.
It comes back, right?
Exactly, yeah. So you guys will be seeing that shortly as well.
So, I guess my question is, the city's not involved with this anymore?
Well, the Fed said we will only work with the county, and that's why we created the rec board, was to make sure we engage the city. So, Matt West and I are advisors to the board, Matt on behalf of the city, me on behalf of the county.
Okay,
So we're trying to make sure this isn't just a county dictates type
Okay.
situation, we want it to be a partnership, even
See.
though we hold the bag.
And that's another group that they're having a hard time getting to their meetings, email or anyway. So,
And there were some things said about that were not necessarily true. Susie has been very ill, and she's the chair. She asked Matt to speak on behalf of the board, even though he's not a board member. He had missed about the first half of the meeting, so he wasn't sure what was going on. And then in the summer, a lot of boards have a hard time meeting, but we had Philip out on fire, Susie was ill, and then you lose one other person for a meeting and you don't have a quorum. So I don't think they're any more, the word dysfunction's been misused, I think, a lot. I don't think they're any more dysfunctional than any other board. But in the summer, it's hard to get people. And then when they didn't have this bill paid, they didn't have Jerry facilitating anything. So I think they got, one, mistreated, and two, were confused on how they could move forward because all their tools have been taken away from them. So, I feel for the rec board, and I think they've been kind of targeted in a way they shouldn't
Well,
have
they
been.
didn't have anything to do for so long,
Right,
really. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of a sharp-edged knife on both sides. And-
yeah. Yeah, they got caught in the middle.
But so that'll be coming to us then, and then we do what we have to do and send it back.
Yeah, I followed up with Corey last week, and I said, can you just give us the quick and dirty, legal review? He had wanted to draft the concessionaire contracts. Jerry's an expert in that. We worked with Mako, and they said, have Jerry draft the contracts, have him send them to Corey for the legal review, and then follow the process of going to the different clubs. So that's the position we're in right now, is just having the legal review by Corey.
Okay,
So hopefully we'll be able to get those out to the clubs. As soon as we do, we'll include the city.
okay.
Do you have something, Tim?
One final question here, Mr. Chairman. On the agreement, or actually it was a potential contract created between Great Western to do the work, and then resulted in these invoices that are now before the board. Because that contract was never totally finalized, if you will, and has been on negotiation now since the last Canyon Prairie Trust Board meeting, is there still potential for pending invoices to come in from Jerry with Great Western beyond what we have now, or has this been pretty much put on hold until this is all resolved? But again, we got bills that are being submitted without any contract.
Well, I think
Oh, wait,
go ahead.
Tim's way off again. Go ahead, Mike, no.
I think as long
Fill in
as,
some blanks.
until this gets disputed, I don't think Jerry's gonna be doing any more work, is he?
Correct, Jerry's on hold.
Okay,
Thank
Um,
you, that's what I was asking.
The
Thank you.
contract with Jerry is absolutely fine. It's solid, it followed all the processes. You said potential conflict, I don't know to what you refer, there's no conflict. Tim, I think there's confusion. So, to that end, yeah, this is probably all we have for now. The recreation board is either A, going to have an agreement with the trust board so they can move forward as we have through our joint meetings, prescribed they will, or they are going to look at hiring Great West on their own for their own recreation survey and assistance. Probably the best facilitator for this kind of stuff in the state is Jerry Grabentz with Great West. So the last thing we want to do is continue to hurt that relationship. He's the one that brought the fire district and the planning board together a couple of years ago and solved that issue. So one of the other things that I wanted to bring up again for discussion and follow through is silos. So I know there was something put on the agenda while I was on vacation, and I appreciate you postponing that till I came back, Mike. There was a request a couple of years ago that 20% would be collected from the dock rentals at the silos, and that money would either be put in the recreation board or the trust board. That is actually not something we can do legally. And I sent an email on this to the board, I don't know if you got a chance to read that. But basically, when you have a enterprise fund, you cannot take any money from that enterprise fund and use it for something else. So when the Silos Recreation Fund, an enterprise fund, was set up in, gosh, it would have been 1990 something. The 10% that was taken from whatever revenue comes in, it actually goes back into that fund. So it's just like solid waste, another enterprise fund. The 128 collected from each household for household waste goes into the solid waste fund. The commission cannot say arbitrarily, we're gonna take another 10% and we're gonna funnel that to, another account, sanitarian. So that's where we're at with the silos. And I know there's been a lot said about that just lately, and it all comes from, again, a misinformation, confusion, but to take 20% from the docks, it cannot be funneled to anywhere else. If you increase the percentage, you have to go through a public process. So, any questions on that
So
for Wednesday?
they can take the 20% from the dock rental, but it has to go back into the silos recreation fund. It can't go back, it can't go to the county recreation fund.
That is correct. I don't know about the 20% though. I think you still have to go through a public process in order to increase that. It'd just be like us saying, okay, citizens, you're going to pay an additional 100% on your solid waste fees. We're gonna raise it to $250. We have to go through a public process to do that. Public hearings, public comment, all of that. You'd have to do the same thing with the silos.
Tim?
I'm sorry, just to add, just maybe a piece of food for thought here on this. In our research to try and make sure that we did have not misinformation or the facts on what's going on currently. In 2006, the original agreement was made with the concessionaire and regarding the management of the silos recreation area. In that original 2006 agreement, the 20% that is being spoke about was delineated, if you will, to go towards the recreation board as well as the upkeep of docks, et cetera, et cetera. Then in 2009, there was an amendment that reduced that amount to 10%. And again, we're talking about the public process and public involvement and the details in the pudding, if you will, as well as looking at the financial records of the Recreation Board and the South Canyon Ferry Trust Board. Those funds are, controlled by regulations as well, as Commissioner Obert pointed out. You can't just go in and just start taking money and throwing it anywhere. So just my 2 cents worth on that. That's really important to look at how those agreements were changed and how that reflects on the contract between the Bureau of Reclamation and the county.
One thing on that, I'm not sure that's, I think you're getting silos recreation and county recreation confused on the 06 agreement, but we can look at that just to be sure.
Yeah, Shirley?
I'm looking at the published agenda for today and for Wednesday. Things that we've discussed since 1 o'clock are on the Wednesday agenda. Is that proper to discuss them here, or do we wait till Wednesday? Also, I noticed there's an omission of one commissioner on the bottom of the letter that needs to be addressed. Just questioning, this all is on Wednesday's agenda. So do we discuss it Monday with no one here, or do we discuss it Wednesday when it's on the agenda?
I don't see anything in law that says I can't bring up some facts in history when there's been so many rumors about to the commission so that they are fully informed.
But you're asking
So-
for decisions and
No,
bills
I'm
to be
not.
paid and those types of things, and that's on Wednesday's agenda.
I'm not asking for any decision on the silos, I'm
You
just
just
talking.
asked-
No, I didn't. No,
I
I didn't.
didn't say silos, I didn't say silos.
That's what we're talking about, Shirley.
I know, but it's on Wednesday's agenda.
Well, I know, there's been rumors out there that are false. So, they are. So what I'm doing is just informing these guys of history so that they have that for Wednesday. And it's proper to do it in a public meeting, full public
Okay.
disclosure. So, any more questions on that history?
I think it was my printer that lost him off, I'm sorry.
So there was a clause in here about that 10% going to the recreation board. But that money was never transferred to the recreation board.
That's true too.
Right, because it can't be.
Okay.
I don't know what clause that would be. The contract, the concessionaire contract, which is this one, it allows for the money to go into the silos recreation fund.
Okay.
I think Tim is confused by the use of the word recreation. It doesn't say anywhere in here that I have found that it goes to the county recreation fund.
Okay.
To do that, we would have a contract that is in violation of state law and would have to be reworded immediately, because you cannot take money from an enterprise fund and put it into a general fund or another fund. So if it does say that, and we can double check it, but I think what the confusion is it says Silos Recreation Fund. An enterprise fund has boundaries, and is set up by a full public process. And just like Tim said, changing it in the contract from 20% to 10% likewise supports, you can't just go in and willy-nilly change the percentage. There's a process so that it's in the contract, it's agreed on by all parties.
No, I know.
Okay.
I think some of this confusion has added to some of the angst between the different boards and this particular contract, and added maybe more emotions than are constructive. I think that's what it is, more than anything else.
Okay, so is there anything else?
There is, so we got this email on the Winston tires. Were you guys able to address this while I was gone?
She's about to exceed the limits of my medication.
So shouldn't that come out of the county attorney's budget?
Yes, it should, and I think we should send a response. I'm absolutely open to edits, suggestions.
Say the county doesn't pay half of it, all right? I can't see where that's come out of the county attorney's budget, though.
Well, that's where I would think that's where it would come from, then.
Where else would it come from?
That's where it should come
You're
from.
saying so much on Facebook.
That's litigation.
Exactly.
Oh, what?
No, yeah, you have your words, that you gave your word.
Thank you. Another typo, as we heard about earlier.
Get nervous when she starts rocking like that. That's when you get nervous.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
sorry for being a pain, but could you please just kind of summarize what's on the table right now before the commission?
This is a letter from County Attorney Swanson wanting more funds from the Board of Health or the commissions to pay for half the cost of litigation with Winston Tire.
Okay.
BO or DEQ is paying the other half, and he wants us to pull it out of the general fund. It should be coming out of the county attorney's funds.
Follow up. Do you have a balance on that?
No.
At
it's
this
just a
point, yeah,
request
I
for
know it's
future
probably still
funding.
fluid, but, okay, thank you.
My concern again is to slippery slope. If every case then is referred to that potential, or that victim to pay it, I see nothing but trouble. So do you guys have any thoughts on the proposed response? Do you want to go ahead and send it? Do you have any edits? What's your thinking?
Let Mr. Fuller.
Well, I think that needs to come out of his budget. I don't know why the general fund should, that's supposed to be part of his budget process.
It is. And we're only in October. He shouldn't have spent his whole budget by now.
No.
So, we also gave him an increase, we froze a bunch of departments.
He's been very patient.
We gave an increase of $7,400. This is a slippery slope that I just don't feel we can go down.
Before we make a decision, I think Corey should be here and explain what his feelings on it.
And that would be fine, we're not gonna meet for another 2 weeks. It sounds to
Well,
me
that's what
like,
it is, that's what it's gonna be then, I guess.
Franklin, it says before I proceed, these people have been the victims of this potential crime for, what, a year now? I don't see anything wrong with saying, Corey, this needs to come out of your budget, you need to do your own job. If you guys do not want to send a response, then we won't. If you do want to send a response, I came up with a suggestion, and I'm asking for edits. How do you guys want to proceed?
I'd like to send that response.
Okay,
And we're meeting next Monday, so I guess if he wants to come argue, come argue.
okay. Or the Monday after, right? Not next
No,
Monday?
next Monday, because it's the
Which
first Monday of the month.
Okay, all right. So, then I'm hearing, support from the commission to send this response.
Not for me.
Okay. It's still a commission decision because, I will move that we respond to Corey's email.
I'll second the motion. Motion been made and seconded to send a letter to Corey in response to the Winston Tire litigation.
Excuse me? You can't be making decisions on anything if it's not on the agenda.
It's part of the consent agenda where we have every ability, and it's also part of the training we just did with Jim Nyes that we can do management and correspondence. And that's what this is. It has to do with the budget, which is already passed. Just stymieing us from doing any business and even communicating with anybody is not serving the public.
Yes. So the only, I got a meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I just get my coat and everything. I figured everything will be done before noon. I went ahead at the one because I got an appointment, and so I'm leaving now.
So future meeting dates are the 11th, or the 5th, the 19th, the 3rd, the 17th, and the 31st.
May I ask why the difference in, meeting,
It's just every
Intervals?
other week.
intervals? Is that not, don't you have a resolution that says every week? That was signed at the first of the year?
I think it says as needed in it.
As needed.
Okay.
And the thing is we can post.
Does the public know you're meeting every other week?
We put it, if we don't have a meeting, we put it in the paper that the meeting has been canceled.
Any of those dates where you might for I leave?
The 5th,
Yes.
the 19th, the 3rd, the 17th, the 31st.
Okay.
Those two are November, that's December.
Oh, this December here? Okay.
This is December.
Oh, the 3rd is December, okay. Okay.
He's just coming up.
And before Franklin leaves, we should have a final vote or vote aye on the motion.
I'll vote for this motion to send this, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, no, abstained, motion carried.
Okay, so the only other thing that I had is a follow-up from our closed door this morning. This already passed 3-0, but as it involves the budget, I will bring it out per law. And I move that we pay the claims we were given by an employee for legal services, that'd be Steve Cordova, and the commission will cover that from PILT.
Okay. I'll second the motion. What was the amount of that?
It was just
2,000.
2,000 something, yeah, it was just a 2,000. I don't know if I have it in my, $2,018.53.
And what was that one for?
Legal services for Steve Cordova.
Not anymore, I don't think. I think he sued the county. And they're being forced to.
No, he did not sue the county. Let's not start that rumor, Cheryl. Thank you.
She's got, it's ears, she only has a sense of honor to go with it.
So is there any other business before the commission? If not, we will adjourn at
We just need to gavel the decision. Vote aye.
aye. Yeah, okay, yeah,
And that's all I have.
okay. So we will adjourn at 1:39.